That Sober Guy podcast contains adult content, merciless truth, and emotional nudity. Listener discretion is advised.
I'm Shane Raymer. You're listening to That Sober Guy podcast, and we help people stay sober. If it's your first time listening, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. If you've been a long-time listener, welcome back. I'm also so glad you're here. Good to be here with you. How to build a solid financial foundation in recovery. We're going to be talking about what that looks like, how you can build a solid financial foundation in recovery as well. And our guest today is Paul Roux. And Paul is a financial coach that helps people in recovery take control of their finances so they can live the life that they were created for. Paul knows from personal experience that recovery requires building a strong foundation, and he believes our own financial health is no different. With a bachelor's degree in commerce, a postgraduate diploma in financial planning, and over 10 years experience in the financial services industry, Paul has gained a vast amount of skills and knowledge around personal finances. And it's such an important topic, not only in just the regular world, but of course in recovery. He also shares his own story battling addiction in a book called The Addiction Diaries. And we'll put everything mentioned today or from today's podcast in the show notes, so it's very easy for you to find. And I'm excited to talk to Paul. We're going to get to him in just a minute. But first, be sure to check us out at thatsoberguy.com. You can follow us on Instagram at thatsoberguypodcast. Of course, join us on Locals. If you're looking for a sober community, it's kind of like Instagram meets Patreon. You can help support us there and be a part of a growing sober community that's safe. So important there. It'd also help you stay accountable, have some fun. We have about 200 active members right now, or just about that. We just started it just a couple of months ago. I'd love to have you join right now. You can download the Locals app, or you can go to that soberguypodcast.locals.com. And once again, those links are in the show notes. Finances, money, just to put it bluntly, such an important thing, such a struggle for many. I know I have had my own struggles with finances, and I still continue to learn, new things and try to grow in that aspect in just life in general, trying to raise a family. And then, of course, applying those principles, the same principles I learned being sober that I learned in recovery, trying to apply some of those to the financial part of life too. So super excited to talk to Paul. Thanks so much, man, for coming on the podcast today, my friend. How are you?
I'm good, Shane, man. It's awesome to be here. Really excited to talk about finances and recovery. Yeah,
it's going to be fun. I think it's a topic that you don't hear about it so often, I think, as in the format of people in recovery. Obviously, there's tons of finance podcasts and, from all different types of aspects of that. But it's something I know on this show that I don't think we have over 300 and what is this? 60 something? I don't know. We have a lot of episodes, and I don't know that we've ever really dove into the finance aspect in recovery. So I'm stoked to do that with you today. Before we do that, I have one kind of opening question. It's kind of a new one we're trying out here. Share something that you believe about being sober or getting sober that some people might disagree with.
Yeah, that's a really good question. For me, what comes to mind is that recovery is not an event. It's a journey, and a lot of people, certainly outside of recovery, have ask the question, are you still going to meetings? Is that still happening? And I just feel like it's not like we get sober on Monday and then by Tuesday we're fine. It's a journey, right? It's a journey of self-awareness and growth. And it's an exciting journey too. I mean, we're learning so much about myself, so much about life, and really appreciating life. And it's, some of the things, I need to take time and learn. Some of the things I'm still learning, I'm coming on 10 years and I feel like sometimes I'm still a newcomer with a lot of things, and I feel like that's also a healthier attitude to have. I don't want to think like, I've made it, I've got it. I got this thing figured out, because the moment I start thinking like that, that's when I start getting into trouble again, And I still, my people outside of recovery, like my family, they have a trouble understanding that. I think that's, I don't know if you can relate to that, Shane.
Absolutely, man. It is tough to understand sometimes that it's not just for someone who hasn't experienced it themselves or watched a loved one go through it. It doesn't happen overnight. Like you said, it's that good old classic cliche, like it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, and you hit on something that I really love. And I really love to point out and talk about is that you're learning throughout that whole process, and you're learning about who you are, as a man. Like, who is Paul? Who is Shane? Like, we get to do that growing day in and day out. And man, some days I don't like who Shane is, depending on the day. I have bad days too. But I think the point is that we're on that journey, and we're trying to improve and get better and enjoy the experience at the same time. I noticed one of the, and I want to get into a little bit about your backstory, your own journey to sobriety, what that looked like. I noticed though that the book, your story is in the book, and we'll put that link in the show notes for anyone who wants to check it out. That was a collective effort. And I've worked a little bit with Anna David before. I know she did, I think, some of the editing or worked on that, and Ryan Hampton, a couple of other people on there. I thought that was pretty cool, man, that you guys kind of got together and did that book as a collective unit.
Yeah. No, it was really cool working with Anna. She's fantastic. She's got her publishing company up in LA. Yeah. And then also chatting with Ryan as well. I mean, he's got some great insight. And he's doing some wonderful work in the US, right, around his, recovery and things like that, bringing a lot of awareness. So both wonderful people. I mean, it just was fantastic to work with them, and it was really exciting to get not just my story out, but everyone else's story in the book. Hey, I mean, and just so all bunch of people, different backgrounds, just trying to carry the message, and it was awesome to have that, and wonderful. I mean, it was just a privilege, really, to be part of something like that.
Yeah, it really looked like it is a great book. Like I said, it's in the show notes. It's called The Addiction Diaries. So if anyone wants to check Paul's story out in the book, or any of the other folks' stories that are in there, I really think it was a great project. So let's get into that a little bit. Paul, give us a little backstory about your own journey to sobriety.
Yeah, man. So for me, I guess I always sort of, with my shares, that I felt different growing up. As a kid, I couldn't quite relate to everybody else. I always felt the outsider, sort of outside looking in, and awkward social situations used to come up a lot. And that was, and then in high school, finding alcohol, experimenting a bit. But it was only until, like university, that things started to sort of take flight in terms of my drinking and my alcoholism. And really, it was drinking because I wanted to experience fun and enjoy life. But, I was trying to run away from something. I was running away, escaping the life, the day-to-day life. I wanted excitement, and I was thinking that I could find it in a bottle. And that was really my 20s, man. And my 20s was just full of crazy times where I would be searching and looking for alcohol, experimenting with drugs, and then getting into car accidents, spending copious amounts of money at places that I shouldn't be going to, doing things. It was crazy. I mean, what we did, and then finding recovery. It took a while in the sense that I a year before I went into rehab, I went to a meeting, and I was interested, but I was doing it for my family. I wasn't doing it for me, and it didn't work. I lasted 3 months, and then I blamed the program. It's the program's fault. I'm different. I need something else. And but a year later, I got into rehab, and I realized at that point I needed to change. That something, I hit rock bottom, and it was this desperation. If I could summarize active addiction in one word, it was pain. Because I got pain, and I was just trying to dose that pain with drugs and trying to numb that pain. And then that pain would keep coming back again and again. And it was paralyzing to me, and I didn't know what to do. So feeling helpless, and I didn't know. I had nowhere to turn to. So my parents found out about this place. It was in South Africa, where I grew up. I grew up in South Africa, but I had to travel down to KZN, which is a province about 4 hours away from where we lived. And I got to this farm, and that's where I got sober. And a lot of the story around in the Addiction Diaries about the farm and having interactions with livestock and dealing with like animals and cows and herding cows and chasing sheep. I don't know if you've chased a sheep before, but they're fast.
I haven't, but it sounds interesting and fun. It sounds hard too. I don't know if I'd catch one.
No, it was tough. I mean, I just picture you're in, it's raining. There's a whole bunch of mud around. You're trying to catch the sheep. So the sheep needs to be vaccinated because, for its health. So you got about, 4 or 5 guys trying to run around and slip over the mud and like chasing the sheep and stuff like that. It was, so those were the days, but it was tough. It was tough. It was uncomfortable. I mean, and you know what? It was supposed to be uncomfortable because it was going against everything that I knew, and I needed to try something different, right?
So you totally had to get out of your comfort zone, and I think that's what a lot of people struggle with, including my own self, especially in the beginning. Is like nobody wants to be uncomfortable. We don't want to change. We don't want to do the things that we know are kind of foreign to us that we've never done before. You were kind of thrust into that, and and there you go. You're chasing sheep around and dealing with animals, and I've heard animals have such a good way of working with people who are either sick or maybe they're struggling with addiction. Sounds like that was kind of a part that helped you kind of get through it too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, there was some wonderful dogs there as well, which, I know a lot of people have therapy dogs, and they did provide a lot of therapy. It was just nice to have them around as a comfort. But yeah, we were hard at work, they really tried to put life on life's terms on the farm. So up at early, 4:45 in the morning, you got quiet time, and then it was getting your chores and responsibilities done, like cleaning the pig pens, cooking and cleaning and all the rest of it, right, that a day provides, and getting your step work done in the morning, and having to try to get that all done on time, and practicing, principles like responsibility and honesty and integrity and things like that. So they really try to introduce those things, and in a working sort of environment, which it helped me because I pretty much hated every moment of it. And that was probably a good thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You got to get uncomfortable. Yeah. That's the thing. And the 4:45 or 4:45 wake up call, that's an early one, ready to go. But I think that structure is so important. I can definitely relate to that. When I was in my own treatment facility, everything was structured, and that helped to, although it was a bit uncomfortable, it helped to get me back on a schedule and get me back on some sort of agenda for the day where I was feeling purpose. I had things to do, things to stay busy, and then do my work on the recovery aspect of my life too.
Yeah, exactly. Which is so important, right? So important.
So when do you think the turn kind of was made, and maybe, the light bulb moment or the moment of clarity, whatever we want to refer to it as, where something kind of clicked for you and you started going down the path of staying sober?
Yeah. Well, I would say, a big moment for me, and the big decision that I made was doing recovery for myself. That was a pivotal moment, because that allowed me to now get serious and take responsibility for my own recovery, right? Because, up until then, I was just wanting to please other people, get other people off my back, that sort of thing, right? So making that decision for myself, and doing that on the farm was big. But you know what? What a really amazing moment, and was I was working on my step 3 at the time. And my sponsor on the farm said to me, can we pray for you? And up until then, I would have said, maybe not. But I just thought, you know what, let's do it. I was willing, going through. And I said, yes, let's do that. And I kid you not, Shane, what happened was the most amazing thing. I started to feel peace come over me. They were praying for peace. They were praying for peace to come through. And that spiritual awakening happened. It was the most wonderful thing that I've ever experienced. I mean, I was filled with thoughts up until then in my head. Everything was just chaotic in my mind, and all that within seconds just dissipated. And I was feeling this peace just rain through me, and I felt God's presence. And it was just this moment of clarity that, oh my gosh, this program actually works, right? This program that they say, just keep coming back. And that moment was so powerful for me. I remember writing in my reflections that night. We would just write about how the day went, what can we do to improve. And I remember saying, this is the happiest day of my life. And I was in rehab. I mean, who has happy days in rehab? But I generally did. It was this experiencing of joy that I got. And I was just blown away.
Yeah, I feel like that experience, for me at least, it was literally the weight of the world just lifted off of my shoulders. Like I could almost physically feel it. And it sounds kind of like that's what you experienced too, is something like that. And you said, I felt God's presence. And I love that so much, man. And I always preface that for everyone out there, like everyone's on their own journey. It doesn't have to be this God or that God or my God or your God. Just pick some God, some spiritual higher power for yourself that can help pull you out of that spot, and that's so amazing, man. I'm so happy to hear that you experience that too. It's so cool when you hear other people's shares like that, because you're like, oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
Freedom.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's so exciting, and you sort of want to tell everybody, right? And you just sort of, oh my gosh, this is what happened. And it's really special. Yeah. So, and I think to some other people, you might even sound a bit crazy, right? Like, geez, this guy, but it's really cool. It's amazing. It's one of those wonderful experiences. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think? So we're going to get into the finance piece of this in just a second, because I'm so curious to dive into that. What do you think one of the greatest things about, your sobriety, being sober, like what has that been for you? If you could share that with someone, like what's your best part?
The best part for me is having a relationship with God, the God of my understanding, and having someone in my corner and not feeling alone anymore. And being able to turn to him at any point, at any time of the day. I don't have to be in a meeting. I can pray outside of meetings. And going to that quiet place wherever, and everyone's different and everyone has their own place or routine around that. Right. And I just love the fact that we can do it. I mean, for me, without God, I couldn't have gotten where I am today, and I could not have had the strength to carry on. Recovery can be hard, especially in the beginning. And being able to not rest in my own strength, because the moment I start doing that's when things get really difficult. And that's when I start to go back to my old ways, right? My old behavior.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
All right. Simple question for you, Paul. How much money did you save when you got sober versus when you were drinking and using?
Saving was, I never saved, right? When I was in active addiction, I just had this, you live once and, attitude, and just go and experience life now. And so I live for the weekend, that kind of thing. So saving was just completely just such a far off concept. So, yeah, I mean, it was.
Did you notice a difference though? I guess maybe I could kind of follow up like you. Did you notice a difference from when you got sober that your financial position began to change because you weren't spending it? I mean, it's kind of an obvious answer or question, I guess, but I just kind of want to hear your take on it. From when you were drinking to when you got sober, was there a big difference there?
Yeah, there was a difference in terms of my thoughts, how I thought about it, because I needed to now, be responsible, right, for my recovery and for my be self-sufficient.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden there was a big shift in like, okay, my spending habits need to be budgeted. So budgeting every month, like you really and running a budget with my sponsor, which I never did. I never did any of that. In the beginning, I was working 2 jobs as a waiter, working 7 days a week. And, I was grateful for the job and things like that, but I had to budget very carefully because it was, I didn't have a lot of leeway in terms of money, right? And so I just had enough money to pay rent, to get enough food on the table, to put petrol in the car so I could go to work. Yeah. So it was just the responsibility, and that shift moved me from a place where I wasn't concerned at all to now I need to be focused and more mindful around it.
And I think it goes back, you can kind of tie this together with some of the first stuff we started to talk about, like recovery is, it's a marathon, it's a journey, you're learning these things as you go. So this was part of that early process for you, not just a dollar change, which obviously it starts to happen if maybe more organically or targeted, depending how you're looking at it. But you do it one step at a time. You do it one piece at a time. And so you had a mind shift, a new mindset in that, having to budget, having to, live a different way than you lived before. So what does a solid financial foundation look like if we kind of go into that?
Yeah, that's a good question, Shane. So, I've been working, just a quick backstory, I worked as a financial advisor when I was in my 20s a little bit, but mostly in recovery, and spending a lot of time in that field in the financial services industry. And what I've looking at different people and how they look at finances and things like that. And what I've realized is it's very important to have a foundation, and to look at what you're spending your money on and why you're spending your money on it, and the motives behind it. So certainly when it comes to a financial foundation, it's about having a healthy mindset for one, and thinking about money in a responsible way. Yes, I want people to have fun and enjoy things and go out and maybe, spend money on shoes that you like and things like that. Yes, but at the same time, you got to think, well, does it fit in my budget? Can I afford it right now, or can I wait 6 months? It's sort of that thinking. Is it a want or a need now? So having that mindset is part of the foundation. Also then is looking at having money tucked away for emergencies. It's so vital, Shane, we are thinking now, even with the pandemic, right? There were so many people that have been hit financially hard, and it's sad. It's so sad to see, and if we can try and avoid these things as much as we can, we must do that. And one of the things is planning for the what ifs, right? What if things go pear-shaped for a while? Generally my rule is if you're employed, if you're working for someone, have 3 months of expenses tucked away in a savings account, right? If you're self-employed, push that up to 6 months. And if you've got a baby on the way and things like that, keep piling into the cash. You never know. Like you got to put money away for these sort of things. And then also debt. Try to pay down that debt as quickly as possible. It's vital. Debt is a burden on us, and affects us emotionally. And we can try to pretend that it's not a big deal, but it actually is, and it does affect us in more ways than one. So we got to have that debt paid off as quickly as possible. And then it's amazing how you feel when you send that last payment across, feeling the freedom. You mentioned a big weight off your shoulders. I mean, that happens when we're paying off debt, right? Yeah. So having those in place is important.
Yeah, the emergency savings account is I think the stress level, it just go when you know that you at least have a little something, maybe it's not even a whole lot, but it's something, $1,000 or something, just in case something happens, the stress level just goes, it's a lot easier, way easier.
Yeah.
All right, this is good stuff. I'm looking at some of the questions here. I'm looking at which one I want to tee up, and I think I see it here. What are some of the common mistakes people make when managing their money?
A big one I see is they live beyond their means. Yeah. So if you're earning $100,000 a year or whatever, you want to spend $120,000 a year or whatever, We're a big thing for me, and what I got to watch out is the comparison trap, right? Comparing my life to someone else and thinking, oh, I got to chase a lifestyle that maybe I'm not ready for yet. That I need to humble myself and say, you know what, that's fine, but I'm not there yet, and my budget doesn't cater for that kind of lifestyle at the moment. So I need to pull back. And if you're earning $100,000 or $50,000 a year, if you're earning 50, you spend 40. So you put away 10 at least, that's that, and having that mentality. So that's a big one.
That's that champagne taste on a Pabst Blue Ribbon budget type of thing, right? Yeah. We got to be careful with that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So budgeting, and then, it's so easy to get into debt, right? And then also, we got these stores that are offering the cards, and then they offering all these special deals and things like that. But you know what? I always think, avoid that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
If you see an item, can you pay for it in cash? If the answer is no, then you need to save up, and then you can pay for it later. But putting it on a credit card and paying it off over 6 months, for me, that is it's happened so often, but it just gets people into trouble a lot quicker, because once you're in debt a little bit, it's so easier to get into debt even more. What's another $1,000, right? What's another 1,000? I'll just pay it off again, and that's that thinking it certainly got me into trouble so quickly, right?
Yeah, and I think a lot of what you're talking about, it sounds like mindset, and I keep coming back to this mindset. So why does your mindset matter so much when you're dealing with money?
Yeah, mindset's huge. Dave Ramsey puts this, he's big in the US, and he puts this point across big, and I really believe it myself, is money, when it comes to money, it's 80% behavior and 20% knowledge, what you know. And our mindset and our behavior is it's impacted by our beliefs. It's impacted by our own experiences of life and our thoughts about money. And if we can shift that behavior in a way that's going to point us in a good position, or a good trajectory, going forward, it's gonna be wonderful, right? So just shifting that mindset to thinking, all right, being more responsible, living less than what I earn, and paying off debt, having money tucked away, and then putting away 15% for my future investments, that sort of thing. So then saving for a holiday and paying for it in cash rather than putting on a credit card and then taking 6 to 8 months to pay it off. It's mindset. It's not so much what you know, it's what you do at the end of the day that counts.
That's good.
That's important.
I noticed too, so for those of us in recovery, right, alcohol is a tool. We'll just use that. The first one that comes to mind, for biggest one I struggled with. We use tools in order to cope, to deal with things, right? I find myself still, I struggle, and I've been very open about this on the podcast and just in general, in life, friends, family, whatever. food and then shopping, right? Those are two things that can supplement the alcohol. And I'll find myself scrolling on Amazon. You want to check out a little bit, you want to just check out and sit there and then, oh man, I really like this pair of shoes. I really like this shirt. And, it's not going to break my bank to buy the pair of shoes or the shirt. But at the same time, I still should be very aware and very conscious of those moments when I'm doing that. Do you find or have any thoughts about that? Or do you ever do that? Or do you work with people who do that?
Yeah, I do that. Definitely. I do that. I find myself, the way they set these things up, right? It's so convenient.
Oh, totally.
It's so convenient and it's supposed to, the one click and you're done. And then
it's like that dopamine
out. Yeah, exactly. Right. And it's all there. And it's it grabs you every time. And that's what they want. They want you to stay on these apps as long as possible. That's how they're designed. So I think just being aware of it, right? And I think that's a good start. And just being aware of that behavior and saying, hey, wait a minute, I'm on it again. Do I need to be on it? Is this something that I actually want, or is it something that I need right now? And you know what, I always sort of say to my clients, pay yourself first and get all that sort of that thing done and put money away, and then whatever's left, go for it. If you've budgeted for it and stuff like that, sure. We got to enjoy life too. That's if there's something that we like, we must go for it. But I think we got to budget for it and plan for it too.
And we have to. You're kind of saying we have to have some balance in there. Like, we want to have fun, we still want to live life, but like, you got to be smart. You got to have mindset. Back to mindset, right? You got strategies. You have a budget. This is good stuff, man. What made you want to get into financial coaching, man? I'm just curious.
So, like I mentioned before, I'm working as a financial advisor, working for different companies over the years. And I enjoyed guiding and inspiring people to either save or invest and stuff like that. But I realized quite quickly that there was something missing, and I really felt called to be in a space where I was working a little bit more closely with my clients. And I find like financial coaching allows me to do that. And I'm not sort of working for a company, and I'm able to really dig deep with my clients and go into a deep dive, right, around what's behind their purchasing and their spending habits. What's the behavior? How can we look at that? And so on. And also being in recovery, I'm feeling a huge need that this financial coaching could really help in this space too, because I know there's certainly, in my experience, people that need it. I certainly needed it in my early stages. And I had to study all this stuff as a financial advisor. So being a coach, for me, I felt called to do it. Honestly.
So what is the difference between an advisor, like a financial advisor, or a financial coach?
Yeah. So an advisor is someone that's going to maybe put you into a specific product, like an IRA? Is that right? Yeah. And maybe choose a particular mutual fund or index fund for you. Because I'm not licensed in that space, I'm not able to provide specific advice around that. So an advisor will help in that space. So that's good. And what I like to do with my clients is, point them in a direction that they can, go speak to an advisor to help them set up a particular account and maybe go into a particular fund. But I'm all about speaking about general concepts, getting people equipped, increasing their financial literacy, and helping them feel empowered. So I want to take them, look at their financial goals, see where they want to go, look at where they are now, and help build a foundation to bridge that gap and to be able to let them move forward. So, introduce them to an emergency savings account, come up with a plan to pay off some debt. Whereas a financial advisor may be just interested in saying, okay, I want to take your money and we're going to invest it in ABC index fund, right? And that's all they do.
Yeah. So, and thank you for breaking that down too, because I think it's important to kind of understand the, kind of each side of that. One of the things I just thought of too, and noticed in some of the notes here too, is shame, right?
Yes.
We had a lot of shame when we were drinking, when we were using drugs. I know, like for me, I was waking up every day feeling remorse, guilt, shame, a big one, just about the doing that same thing over and over. I think shame around money is a real thing for a lot of people. We have buyer's remorse. We hear that a lot, or we have guilt that we spent too much, or we don't have enough, or we're in debt or whatever. What are, like you mentioned here, the sooner you talk about it, the better. How do we work around some of those things? And I would imagine that's probably some of the things you work on with your clients is dealing with some of that shame.
Yeah, no, yeah. Shame comes up. It does come up a lot. It's a powerful emotion. It's a very destructive one. And I know from my own experience how it paralyzed me. Shame hates the light. And, so talking about it as soon as possible is, I know it's hard. Especially around debt, because people are, thinking of one particular client. He was in quite a lot of debt, and he just didn't want to even admit it, right?
Yeah.
It was just kind of like, like, let's talk about something else. It was just that feeling that comes with, I'm not, what have I done? I'm not good enough, and so on. And so shame can keep us paralyzed and stop us in our tracks, right? So the best way to deal with it, I find, is just to start talking about it, opening up. And that could be a process, right? But the sooner you talk about it, then there's this release, right? And you're able to now, when you have someone in your corner, and I always tell my clients, I'm here to support you. I'm here on your side. Let's work together. Working together and co-creating something is a lot easier than trying to figure this stuff out on our own. And I feel like sometimes when we're in that space, we feel like we're the only person, right, that's going through this. Yeah.
So when you're working with somebody and you kind of, we talked about, the marathon, right? We're going through these steps, we're working these things out. So let's say you get to the step where you finally get them to talking about some of the shame or some of the issues, the debt, like whatever it is in that specific scenario. Do you find that once you start talking to them about that stuff, once they start talking about it, does it have an influence on their self-esteem, their confidence, maybe their relationships as they're kind of working through some of that stuff? Can you when you open up about it, you start to see some of that growth?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And there's, it may not happen initially, but there's space, right? You've created space for that growth to happen. But before, we don't talk about it, there's no space for that growth to happen at all. So the moment you open up about it, it's amazing how things can change and shift. And that feeling of relief can happen. And then, yes, the self-esteem, because feeling like, okay, it's possible now, because that's we can be in a place where it's not possible. I'm a failure. I'm never going to get out of debt. I'm going to stay like this forever. And that space is such a horrible place to be, but realizing that, oh yeah, I can do it. It's possible. And I've got someone here to help me. Wow. Yeah. The attitude changes. There's a shift. People start to light up and they think, okay, yeah, this is possible. And yes, the self-esteem will start coming back and the confidence. So yeah, I mean, it affects us emotionally, right? I mean, this money is it's not just a tool that we use. Yeah. It affects us emotionally and mentally and spiritually, right? Yeah. So we've got to be talking about it. We've got to be opening up about it and sharing and saying, hey, I'm putting up my hand. I need help here. I need help. Yeah. What can I do?
You said self-esteem, and it's funny when we're in treatment or when we're in different aspects of life, and we hear these trigger words that come up, and maybe you have one and you ultimately go to. When I hear self-esteem, I go back to my time in treatment, and we would say it as a group. How do we build self-esteem? By doing esteemable acts. And it's like, yes, it's so true, by doing esteemable acts. And it kind of leads me to this next question here about giving back. Like when we're giving, like why is that so important when it comes to our money, making sure that we're giving as well?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, giving, I mean, my experience of giving back, and I tithe to my church, and it's such a wonderful. Firstly, I have an opportunity to do that and to give back. But I know through my own being of service and helping people in recovery, in the rooms, doing service work, whatever, you get so much in return, right? I mean, it's not, and it may not be money, but it's that joy that you might be experiencing, or all of a sudden the worries that you came into the meeting have been lifted, and you're not concerned about those sort of things. But I also know that I've always been worried about, like, say, my budget, right? In terms of, if I give this money to the church, I don't know if I'm going to be able to meet all my expenses now. Yeah. But you know what? The times that I've done that, every time my expenses have been met, it's been sorted out, it's been done. That money comes back. Yeah. And I think that's important that us, where we in a position where we do have money, that we're able to give it back and share and be of service to one another, because that's a huge principle of recovery. And I really want to bring that into my coaching too, because it's a fundamental to what I want to achieve, is giving back, having the opportunity to do so.
I love that, because I struggle with the same thing. Like, well, man, what if I give this, then I might not have enough for that. Or it's funny, I can't remember if it was my sponsor or one of my buddies. They said, man, like, when does God ever let you down? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. It didn't work out maybe like I exactly expected it to, but he's never let me down. It's always worked out somehow, some way or another. So I think having that, that faith and that ability to just understand that it's going to be okay. It's going to work out. You know what I mean? And we come with that giving spirit. Definitely helps a whole lot. One of the questions I wanted to ask you about was eating out. Like, that's probably the most thing that we spend a good chunk of money on. Like, there's a place in here in Huntington Beach called Sancho's Tacos. I eat there 3 days in a row. I spend a whole ton of money, but I mean enough for lunch and then dinner one night and lunch, And do you find that eating out is a big one for people, in spending money?
Yeah, well, it's certainly for me too. It's tough. Gosh, yeah. I mean, the convenience of it all, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to cook and clean.
Yep.
Someone else is doing it for you. This is wonderful. Yeah. And then also Uber Eats.
Oh yeah, delivered. Have it delivered.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the convenience is wonderful. So yeah, it's so tempting. Mm-hmm. And it's something that I have to be mindful of, because I can get into trouble that way so quickly, because what's eating out once a week going to do? And then, geez, I look at my budget and I'm thinking, oh man, okay, well, that I shouldn't be doing that as often as I am, and I need to cut back.
So it's kind of just about making those adjustments, though, right? That's kind of what you're saying. Like, we're never going to be perfect at anything we do, and so as long as we're kind of mindful of what we're doing, our habits, we can go back and look and go, oh yeah, last month I spent a little bit too much here. I need to adjust that. So we're just constantly kind of working on it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's, progress, not perfection.
Yeah.
We're just, it's a journey. We're thinking, okay, yeah. And not to be hard on ourselves too, because then we're bringing in shame into the whole thing as well. Right. And that's not going to help. Certainly doesn't help me when I think, I'm a failure. I didn't get it right. I didn't get 100% perfect. We're human beings at the end of the day. I think as long as we have a willingness to want to improve, get better, and paying off things as quickly as possible. And if we can go out, it's nothing better than being able to go out, paying cash for it, and knowing that it's in my budget and I'm going to be okay. I mean, the feelings that come with that is like, the self-confidence, the self-esteem that comes with it. Right. But if you're doing it and it's always stressful afterwards and things like that, you got to kind of look at it and think, well, is it adding value to my life?
Yeah.
Maybe it's not.
Yeah.
So I got to cut back, because actually that's going to improve my quality of life.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, I gotta give a little shout out to my wife though too, because she's the budgeter. She's really good about doing like, okay, we have X amount of dollars for this week. We're doing X, Y, and Z, and I'm a little bit more like, I'm just gonna go to Sancho's 3 times a week. But we complement each other well, and we're not perfect. And I think that's kind of the point, right? Is what you're saying is we're making that progress. We're not perfect at it, but as long as we're moving in the right direction and we have some guidance, we have some guidelines, we can definitely get better and better as we go on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So if someone if someone wants to reach out to you, or they want some more information, what's the best place to get in touch with you at, to find more information about your coaching program, or just your story in recovery? Where would they do that?
Yeah, I mean, you can email me. My email address is paul@paulrouxcoaching.com. My website is paulrouxcoaching.com. And I've got Instagram handle is Master P. Roux. And at Facebook, it's facebook.com/paulrouxcoaching. So that's where you can reach me. But my email is probably the easiest, and my website. Yeah.
Okay. I got to make sure I have the email in here. Okay, no, I have the website, and I'll get that when we're done. I didn't have that added in here already, but yeah, we'll cool. Make sure that we put that in the show notes as well, so you can reach out to Paul if you want to very easily. Man, this has been great, dude. Like finances is always so tough for people to talk about. I know it's been a struggle of my wife and I's for. And we're just in the last couple of years. I've been sober, almost 8 years now. And so the first 5 or 6 years, man, changing those thought patterns, is one of the biggest things. And I guess that comes with anything, whether it's finances or recovery or anything in life, is kind of unlearning some of those old things. But I still go back to, we still go back to those old ways of thinking sometimes, like I'll give you an example. There was a long period of time where I drove, intoxicated with no insurance, no license. And so I became a professional at looking in the rearview mirror to make sure that there was no police by me, that I was like, it was just a way how I drove. And so every once in a while I'll be driving along, and thank God, I have a license. I'm not intoxicated. I have insurance. I'm a responsible human being, right? To some extent. And I still catch myself like looking in the rear view mirror. And I'm like, man, so we go back to some of those old patterns. And I think what you help people do is to get on a track where they are constantly improving and constantly being aware, at least, of those spending habits, the debt habits, all those types of things, that they're able to recognize them when they pop up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's just starting with self-awareness and just being aware of what's happening and how do I operate. And from there we can move forward. And how can I improve? I mean, that's just to see where you're at, and not being hard on yourself in the process too.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. Giving ourselves grace and being able to kind of understand that we're going to make mistakes along the way, and we just got to recognize them and kind of move on. Good stuff, Paul, man. I really appreciate you coming on the show today. Anything you want to add before we wrap up today?
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say thank you so much, Shane. I really appreciate the opportunity. This has been awesome, and I think what I just want to say is it's important that we start talking about money and lifting the shame around it, and being able to ask for help when we need it, because there is help available, and you can reach out and get the help that you need. So the sooner you talk about it, the sooner things can move and improve your situation. My sponsor always said to me, nothing changes if nothing changes. So I got to think, okay, well, how can I move forward? How can I change my situation? Well, maybe I got to do some actions that might feel uncomfortable, but it's actually going to help me in the long run.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good, man. That's good. Well, I appreciate you once again. Folks, if you want to check out Paul's coaching program, it's Paul Roux, ROUX coaching.com. Once again, Instagram, Facebook, and the email address. We'll put all those in the show notes for you as well as the Addiction Diaries book if you want to check that out. Paul, man, it's been so great to have you on the show, man. Thank you so much, dude. I appreciate it, and I hope to have you back again sometime. Yeah, man, I appreciate it, Shane. Thanks so much. Thanks for tuning in today. Share the podcast with a friend. Check us out at thatsoberguy.com and connect with us on Instagram at thatsoberguypodcast. Join the Locals app. Great sober community in there. Peace, love, and respect. Keep your blood clean.